Okay, today is the day I'm gonna fix this Cuckoo quail. Hopefully the final time. It stopped yesterday, as you can see. It quit about 3:30 in the afternoon because, and you can see the quail door is open. It wanted to call. And if I pull the chain, let's see, this is the quail's, no, this is the time, strike side. Time. Where's the... Oh, I see why it stopped. Somebody didn't wind it yesterday. Anyway, I am going to work on this today. Because I know it has a problem with the lever and the third wheel warning pin. There's a groove in the lever that's catching the third wheel warning pin, so it's going to mean taking the whole movement apart. And there's 3 trains on this movement. There's a lot to it. It took me a long time to get it set up right, but I've played with it enough. I feel like I'll be able to do it a little faster. My goal, though, is to use my new ultrasonic cleaner on it. And then I'm going to use the Mother's Wax and the Renaissance Wax. I don't think it's wax. Mother's Mag and Chrome Polish. Mag and Metal Polish. And then the Renaissance Wax to finish it up. And I did a different movement yesterday. I'll show you. So this is a different, it's also the same maker, George Kuehl. It's a turn-of-the-century cuckoo clock, after the Hunt one that I've got. And I was having trouble getting the pendulum regulated on it. I found an antique pendulum online, bought it. So to adjust it, I have to turn that little pin and slide that up and down in the groove there. And there's no sweet spot where this thing runs properly. When you set it, run 5 minutes behind consistently. You move it up 5 minutes and then you look and it's 5 minutes behind again. And then you look and in 24 hours it's gained 10 minutes. So that's a sign of something hanging up in your movement. And with a movement this old and with these heavy weights, these are the same as 8-day cuckoo clock weights pretty much. The force that the third wheel pin hits the lever to stop the strike mechanism is enough over 115 years to wear a groove in it. So I was not very judicious when I cleaned and put these back together for looking for wear on the end of that lever. And so I've had to take them both back apart. So this one I did the ultrasonic cleaner for the first time on this clock, and it came out good. It came out clean. And then I took the Mother's chrome mag and chrome polish, mag and aluminum polish. I'll get it right. And I showed it to my husband, and I said, "Look, this is clean, right?" And then I showed him the other side that I had done the other polish on. He's like, "Wow, that's really clean." So then when I was all done, what I haven't had before was anything to protect it from fingerprints. And some people wear gloves. That's great. I don't like wearing gloves. I like the tactile ability my fingerprints have on things. My sense of touch is important. So I wear gloves at work. I know there's a difference. So I don't choose to wear them when I work on clocks. So I did the Renaissance polish on top of that. Got it put back together, and it's been up and running on my test stand since about 10 last night. So 2 more hours, it will have gone through all of the slots on my count wheel, and nothing had hung up. It had dropped the weight for the time and the weight for the strike side consistently. I just pulled it back up this morning because I don't have a whole lot of room here on my test stand. I've got about 3 feet, so I can run it 10-12 hours and then they'll be on the floor. But so anyway, they were even when I came downstairs this morning to check on this, and the time had kept good. And so yeah, 2 more hours. I'm going to let it run, make sure it doesn't hang up. at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then I'll put it back in the box. And I wanted to share another reason why your clock might seem to be working erratically, because sometimes it seems to run great and sometimes it doesn't. This one, you'll notice the time wait is a lot longer than the Cuckoo wait, and that was because when I pulled this up to wind it this morning, I usually wait until it has just finished cuckooing, because they're kind of particular about when they're in warning and you pull the weights. Sometimes they'll cuckoo until the weight drops all the way to the floor. Sometimes this one is notorious for it just won't turn the hands anymore. So if I come down here and try to make it do something, it won't. I have to go in the side door to make it go off. And then it will let me catch it. So, now back to the other clock. So my after the hunt GK movement is back in the clock. It ran great on the test stand all the way around the cycle of 12 little cutout slots on the time wheel. And I did not put it on the test stand and let it run inside the clock. I recommend you always do that. Look. Nothing. Something is stuck. I can pull on the weight and it makes it go. Otherwise, I would say that the count wheel's getting stuck in the lever. Something is not adjusted right with the weights on. Although without it in the case, with it not having to lift any bellows, it did fine for all the way from 10 to like past 10 and on to 1 before I put it back in the case. Everything was working perfectly. And now it's already jumped and done the hour and the half hour. And the thing's not working, so now I get to focus on how the bellows are attached. Got this back off of the wall. Took the back off. It's on my test stand now. As heavy as these are with the weights, I use my little tripod for my camera to hold one end up, because the whole thing will come out of my little vise there sometimes. At some point I'm going to make this, I ordered this stand from somewhere, one of the clock supply places, and I really like it. It adjusts good to hold a movement or the Cuckoo clock. It's not great for holding American clock movements, but I can put a plate, just a piece of a 1 by 12 in this little vise and attach an American movement to that. But for these movements and these clocks, I like this stand. But if I could build some kind of base that would had some arms on it that I could clamp my vise to, it would be much more stable than what I've got. I just haven't done it yet. But anyway, so I can see already part of the problem of why it's binding and not going. And if you look at the angle of the count lever in relation to the center of the wheel, it should be pointing at my wheel. It's already bound enough to bend it down at some point. Look at it, it's pointing straight down here. So, well, you could see it if I would point to it, right? Okay, so this count lever needs to enter close on this side. When it shuts off, it should be on this side so that there's room for the half hour to go off and give you one song before it does the next set of hour strikes. So this needs to be pointed at your center. So it goes in on the side, but the angle that you want is pointed at the center. And if you look, this one is pointed down here. So I think it got hung up on a tooth. It didn't lift up high enough, and that caused it to bend a little bit. And so then it's really going to be off from that point on. always check it once you put these extra levers on here. It does add extra stress to the movement and makes it move a little bit different. So learn from my mistakes. Maybe you won't have to make them too. I'm going to move that arm a little bit and we'll see what we can get. I straightened the lever a little bit, but if I had checked it in the test stand before I just put the back door on and hung it up, I would have seen this. This Cuckoo lift lever is on top of my high note bellow, keeping it from being able to go up. So since the lift lever cannot go up any higher, it kept the count wheel lever from being able to go up high enough, and that's what made it catch on the tooth and get bent. So I should have been a little more slow. I was just ready to get it done and get on with the next movement I was going to try to take apart and clean today. Always run your clock all the way through the time sequence also, because it did good for these smaller numbers, but then I got up here to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think that's 7. 10, 9, that was 7 o'clock, and now it's binding again. So if it's off a tiny bit, you won't notice it on the smaller ones, but the tiny bit accumulates each time it cuckoos, and so when you get to the longer counts, that's when you'll end up getting 13 cuckoos and odd things like that. So make sure you go through all of it over and over. I feel like this is adjusted pretty well. It might be a tad high. I've got it aimed at the center of the wheel. I may come back down just a tiny bit and then shift my wheel a little bit, a tooth or so. It may just be off a little bit. A little more adjusting, and also don't forget to look down every so often and make sure your weight's not on the floor, because I thought I needed to adjust more and it was just that this had reached the floor because my test stand is 3 feet off the ground. So here's 12. So 12 is important that it shuts off, and then it's got to do 12, 31, and 130. All 12 shuts off, and then 12, 31, and 130, all in that gap before that first little tab is for 2 o'clock. So we're going to see if it shuts off at the right times for that. Alrighty, 12, that's good. We didn't have 13. 12:30, 1 o'clock. 1:30. And now, are we close enough for it to catch the 2? We'll see. May not quite be angled right still. And it is, and it shut off. So I'm going to go through it one more time, and I think we're just about there. So you know that this lever is your adjustment problem, and how high this lifts, and also the bird wire was adjusted too high up, so it was putting a lot of workload strain on the gears being able to turn, because it was trying to push the bird higher than the bird wanted to go. So wires all are important with the gear function and the strength of the clock. You can always overcome it by pulling down where your weight is, which is why a lot of times the chain links are separated. Someone fixed it by just pulling on it to see if that would make it work. If you've got to pull on it, you've either got the wrong size weights on there and the clock shouldn't be running regularly anyway, or if you know you've got the right size weights, it should run smoothly. So if it's binding, check your wires, these 3 wires, and also then you know you need to adjust this lever and this count wheel relationship, because when you put it together and you did a movement test, it shut off and locked every time like it was supposed to. So once you put the count wheel on, that's what makes it go more than just one time around and lock. So if you've got good shut off when you function tested it, when you put it back together initially, then you know the rest of your adjustments are on the outside here. I've been all the way around. It seems to be adjusted at the right angle for this clock, and I did unscrew it and move the wheel a little bit so that when it's done cuckooing the half hour, it's a little bit closer to the next lever, the next little piece of this count wheel that it's going to go on to. But I've noticed I don't know if they're tool marks when they designed this wheel, like it was a solid wheel, and they cut out the slots for the gaps for the different times. But there are some kind of gouges in there, so I don't know if those were made over time from the lever rubbing on the back side of the count wheel all the way. This little flattened piece might have been too close to the back and been rubbing, and so it could potentially hang up in some of those. They don't all go as far down, those little grooves, as the others. They definitely, you can feel them. I noticed it because I did the polish with the Mother's chrome mag metal polish, and so it makes any kind of flaw like that stand out more. The chrome polish gets in it, and you can notice them. So I noticed them, and I debated on whether I should try to file them any smoother or not. But what I did was just make sure my little lever was a little bit further from the edge. I made sure there was a gap from this side to the wheel so that it's not rubbing on it at all. Made sure it was pulled forward a little bit so that it's not touching this part of the count wheel. It should touch this surface. This surface should be nice and flat and smooth. If it's not touching it, then it'll go up and down a little bit, and your cuckoo will go in and out, and the door will close and open, close and open. So you want it to ride flush against this cutout part, but you don't want it pushed back against the back part of the wheel. So anyway, I've made all those adjustments, and I'm trying to turn it. I can't find my minute hand. There we go. 12:30. 1:30. And 2. It should go up on top of that little piece and shut off. And then 2:30, and it's still a little bit away. It's kind of in the middle of the gap, so that's what I was worried about, was it's not close enough to the next little bar tab to catch this tooth, but it does catch it. So here's 3 o'clock. So I've gone all the way around. Everything seems to be working like it should, so now I'll hang it up on the wall. Then I can start on the Cuckoo Quail movement. Thanks for watching, guys. I've gotten started on that Cuckoo Quail movement that needed the lever filed a little bit smoother and adjusted. Taking the back plate off, and this is our Cuckoo side, great wheel, second wheel with the cam, third wheel with the warning pin, and then some levers that go in the sides here to hook onto the cam, and then the pin comes down and catches it. What's unique about this clock is there's a pin on either side of the third wheel. So this bottom wheel catches on the lever, and the top wheel is what catches when it goes into warning. And it is bent into the side, because otherwise when it goes past this time wheel, it will catch and make really weird noises. So this is the lever that was on the Quail side. The Quail side is the same. Great wheel, second wheel, it's got 2 cams, but it still works the same. Lever comes in, locks in, and then this third wheel also has 2 pins, one on each side for the mechanism to catch and to catch when it goes into warning. This catches inside this little loop when it goes into warning, and the back side catches on this lever right here. So when you look at this lever, you think, oh, it doesn't look bad, it's looking great, until you realize it catches inside here. So that's how I missed this. The only way I found what was holding this clock up was I had to take the front face off, and then I could see. See how there's a little bit of wear on top of the lever right there? And then inside, it should be hitting inside the lever right there, but then sometimes it comes to rest on top where that little groove is and holds the lever down, and it can't strike. So that's what I've been dealing with for several months, trying to figure out what the problem was. And I took it down to one time to fix it, and it didn't do it. It was working fine, so I didn't fix it, but of course the problem came back. So I'm going to be smoothing this off and making sure that this pin on the bottom side of the third wheel is hitting inside the middle of this more nicely. It tends to want to ride along the top of it. So I'm going to bend this whole little arm up a little bit so that it hits in the middle where it used to, it looks like, because that's where there's some wear. Anyway, I'll be checking both of these. Let's see, the lever for the Cuckoo side is still on. I haven't taken it off of the movement yet. But it hits where you would expect. It hits on the front face over here, and it looks fine. There's a little tiny mark on there. I'm going to file that too, just to make sure it's good and smooth. You can see it right there in the center of that. But yeah, that's why I took this all apart, work on these two levers. So some other clocks use a wire system, and not the pin hitting up against a flat lever, but it hits against a wire, kind of like this does when it goes into warning. And the wire seems to not get the wear patterns. It's harder. This is stainless steel, and the pin is stainless steel, so they're equally matched as far as how dense the metals are. This brass is a whole lot softer, so that's why after 100 plus years of working and running into this, it starts to wear a little pattern. This is my shirt that my daughter got me for Christmas. I'm only talking to my dog today. People that know me get me really cool stuff for Christmas. And a friend of mine got me a pair of socks that said "Dogs and wine make everything fine." So they do. Glass of wine, sit outside, pet a dog, you'll feel much better. But anyway, been working on clocks most of the day. I'm tired of working on clocks. So now that I've got this apart, I'm just gonna smooth this piece off because I do not feel like fighting with 3 trains to try to get it back together tonight. So I have an assortment of stones. I was lucky enough to get all these on that auction that I won of a previous clockmaker's tool, so I didn't have to try to figure out which ones I needed to order. I have all the way from a little bit of a medium fine grit to smooth feeling, and then Arkansas stones. I don't know why these are in a little separate box, but I guess he got these later, whoever I bought from. I've never used them. It says square ground tool bits. If someone knows what they're for, message me, leave a comment, tell me what these little, they're metal. I don't know what they're, why I would have square metal things in a box. So anyway, I keep them in here with the filing stuff. And I'm going to use, this is my favorite one. It's made to have some oil on it. If you put some oil on the surface that you're going to work on, it keeps the small pieces from getting down in the pores and using up your stone faster. So I'm going to float a little bit of the regular clock oil that I use on here, and I'm just going to get in there and smooth that off some. It's not the easiest spot to get to. So this is things you do when you're a novice clock repair person. You think when you look at it, oh, it looks good. Because you don't realize what's hitting where inside the clock. So anyway, it's going to be challenging to get inside there. See how it soaks right in the oil? These are thirsty little stones. I've got other ones that are made to soak in water. I fill the sink and soak it in water for 5 or 10 minutes before I use the bigger ones. But yeah, you can't even tell there's any oil on that. It soaks right in so fast. but it will protect the stone and make it last longer. Alright, so I want to stay on the same plane. I do not want to change the plane of this. So getting in there with this arm in my way is going to be interesting. Maybe that's why there's little tiny ones, right? Okay, little triangle shaped ones. I'm going to use this flat one. I'm not going to use that one after all. I can't get it in the space to do what I need to do. Maybe. I mean, I got that arm also. It just limits me being able to move it as freely. And I don't want to change the angle, so I'm going to go with a different stone. So it'll take me a little bit longer, but it'll still smooth out. And part of what I need to do is angle this up just a little bit. The movement that I just showed you that I put back together, when this arm came out, I don't know if my hands are in the way or not, when this arm came out, this little piece kind of aimed up in the air, and I thought, oh, did it get bent from some time that it fell? But I'm going to work on doing that with this one. Just aim it a tiny bit up in the air, and that should make it hit back in the center instead of on the top. You can feel a big, definite groove right there. Not really one this way. But yeah, it's been hitting right there on the corner. It was barely catching, and it has worn a groove right there in the corner where this surface meets this surface. So I'm going to work on flattening that back off. Better. So this stone is super smooth, but you can tell I'm doing something because it's leaving a little bit of brass design on the stone. I want to square it up so there's a flat surface for the pin to hit on instead of an edge. That feels pretty square right there. Ooh, I got a nice lip right there. So whenever you file something, sand something, you've got to check it from every direction. Because when you sand it this way, it'll leave a little lip that's sharp on the top or the bottom. You don't want to leave any sharp lip when you're trying to get wire pins to slide. I only want to do this once, so I have been messing with this clock ever since I got it. And I can look back in my receipts and see when I got it, but it was many months ago. And then I think I find what does something, and then still, you can tell with my stone on there, it is slightly bent up in the air. It doesn't contact the stone all the way across the surface. Really polishing up the brass nicely. Okay. I don't feel any. Oh, there's a little something. Yes, much better. So this pin is going to hit and slide off the top, I believe. I don't think it goes all the way down and slides off the bottom. But I'm going to make sure it's smooth that way too. Because when I go to put it back in the clock, I don't want to go, oh, no, wait, it goes that way, and have to take it back out and file it again. So just do it as good as you can to start with, and you won't have to do things over and over like I've had to do. Okay, now I'm going to take this and bend it slightly up in the air. So I'm going to hold this here, and I'm going to bend the end of this slightly up. And I don't know if you can see under there or not, there's a little space. So I have bent it up in the air. So I'll see where the pin hits. I don't want it to go way down to the bottom and have to slide that far to let it go into warning. It might hang up and not go that far. So I just want to move it 1 millimeter so that it's hitting a little bit more on the surface of this surface that's about probably 3 millimeters wide. Anyway, I'll let you know tomorrow because I'm going to stop for today. Thanks for watching.